Next, as I promised in the schedule, is that we've got Players Health with us. For years, for 20 years or more, Indiana Soccer's insurance was being delivered by Pullen Insurance, and it was Pat Pullen was the one who owned that company. His son came into that company with him, Dan Pullen, and so for the last 8 or 10 years, we've dealt with Dan Pullen. Pullen Insurance was sold to K&K, who was actually the underwriter for all of the insurance that Indiana Soccer provides. And just as a note, K&K is out of Fort Wayne. Just a year or so ago, there was a big shakeup in underwriters that wanted to underwrite youth sports. When you start talking, when we've introduced sexual, the whole sexual predator thing has become a big issue. Concussions became a big issue. A lot of these underwriters didn't know how to determine what their risk was, and so some of them dropped out. So there was a lot of shifting around, and so when there's change, there's always an opportunity. And so a gentleman who played some professional football, Tyree Burks, who has also suffered from injury and so forth, saw the insurance space differently. He saw it as a risk management thing where you kind of used insurance as part of your strategy, but really it's a risk management approach. And with us this morning, we have Chris Besigan, who is with Players Health. And I've asked Chris to join us to kind of go through not only what insurance you have currently with Indiana Soccer, what other insurance coverage is available that isn't covered under that which Indiana Soccer provides, and then kind of where the relationship that we're trying to expand upon with Players Health, and being able to provide more member benefit to our member clubs and their members. So with that being said, Chris, the floor is all yours. And Chris, if you're talking, we can't hear you. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, no. Trying to figure out the mute buttons. No, honestly, Dave, thank you so much for having me in it. I'm really excited to be able to talk to you all. What I will tell you is that if half of you are awake by the end of this presentation talking about insurance, I will be excited. So wanted to kind of go into who we are at Players Health and kind of where we came from. One of the co-founders of the organization, again, when Ty and I first started this thing, never in a million years would I have told you we're going to be, this embedded into insurance, because what we wanted to do was build all this athlete safety technology that did really two things. One is the mission: create our safest environment for youth sports and the most accessible environment for youth sports, for athletes to play the sports that they love. So Tyree came from the south side of Chicago, and what he always says is sports saved his life. I was a rugby player back in college, played at the University of Notre Dame, and the things that sports did for me gave me wild opportunities that I never would have had otherwise. And so that's where we came from. About 4 years ago, we really moved into the insurance space because what we found was by developing all these risk management technologies like abuse prevention platform or a reporting platform for kids to report abuse anonymously or privately, an injury management system, by creating all of these things and mitigating the risk, we were actually able to give people better coverage or better rates on their insurance coverage. And so that's kind of the model that we follow. That's the business model. We really see insurance as the funding mechanism for being able to do good in the world and being able to help support you and support the athletes that you're supporting.
And I might just add, you heard him say that he played for Notre Dame. I played for Purdue. So I can tell you how much I enjoy Players Health to be able to tolerate somebody that played for Notre Dame.
Thanks, David. It's been a long journey to get there, I know. And really kind of, again, going back to this insurance, we don't want to be the people who just fling you a policy and say, hey, good luck, here's your policy. We'll see you next year, because that's what a lot of insurance brokers, they rest on the relationship and they say that that's everything. And we don't want to do that. What we really want to do is provide support. Look at insurance as a service to you as an organization. And so I'll go through some of the different things that one, we're developing, or two, we already have developed to be able to support you. I know David kind of talked a little bit about the Pullen agency. Dan Pullen actually works with Players Health right now because he saw the value that Players Health was bringing, and he kind of joined the team because he wanted to be able to provide you all that same support that K&K was no longer to provide. So let me go through kind of some of the services, and a lot of this has been driven by Indiana Soccer, Dave, the soccer consortium that he's a part of, really trying to support you all from a member benefit perspective. So obviously we do insurance, general liability, property, any of the property casualty lines. So your accident medical coverage, directors and officers, crime, cyber, we do all of those insurance coverages to be able to support you all. Right now through Indiana Soccer, we do the general liability, the player accident medical, and the directors and officers. And when you talk about sexual abuse and molestation, that links in with the general liability. We do athlete safety consulting. So as part of the services that we offer through insurance, we have a safety team that is, one of the best. Built the programs for USA Baseball, built the safety program for USA Field Hockey, built the program for USA Hockey. So we have all of these experts in-house who are actually being able to support support Indiana Soccer Association by developing policies and procedures. And it's not just about, putting words on a paper. It's really thinking through, how do we develop something that isn't super cumbersome for you all, but still does what it's supposed to do?
And if I can interject right there, Chris, later today, we're going to hear from Safe Sport. And many of you have heard the term Safe Sport, and I don't want to take Chris's time to get into Safe Sport, but it has created a very complex environment. And in order to navigate that complex environment, you need the experts to be able to come up with what should your policies look like. And so really glad to know that our partner here, Players Health, has expertise in how to mitigate those risks using policies and procedures. So again, I just want to amplify that piece, Chris, but go ahead.
Awesome. Background checks. So we do a lot around kind of risk products as well. So you're thinking background checks. We do a lot around for non-USOPC organizations. We do a lot around abuse awareness training. We've developed our own content in-house. From an investigations perspective, for things that need third parties to be looked at. Sometimes if you're dealing with something in-house, maybe it's a bullying situation, maybe it's a hazing situation. We offer kind of third-party investigation services with FBI agents, people who really know what they're doing, so that you can kind of step away and have a third party review that particular case. One example that I have, and I know a lot of you have probably gone through this, is there was a suit or someone who was coming with an incident around playing time for his son. And they were saying that it was really around, well, he was getting bullied, it wasn't fair, yada, yada, yada. And at the end of the day, it was just, you all have to build your organization in a way that makes sense. And you have to evaluate all of these athletes in a different way. We took it on as a third party case, kind of went through our whole process. And at the end of the day, we said, hey, the third party took a look at it, and, this isn't a case of bullying. So there are those sorts of investigative services that we offer as well. And then finally, we're moving into kind of assisting with more content around coach and staff credentialing, as well as healthcare insurance, which I'll get into a little bit later. And again, I don't want to bore you guys with all the insurance talk. I will have my contact information at the end of this if you want to get into the nitty gritty. But I do want to open up the end for a lot of Q&A and for questions that you all have on your end. So the current offerings through ISA, general liability with sexual abuse and molestation in the excess. So these are actually some of the highest limits that I've seen in the industry underneath Indiana State Soccer, and it's for a good reason. Basically, you have the general liability, which is a 1 million occurrence, 5 million aggregate. And then you have an excess layer on top of that, which is more coverage of 5 million and 5 million per USYS's risk management guidelines. The thing that's really beneficial for you all is the sexual abuse molestation, both in the primary and the excess. So you have about 2 million, 4 million. This is why we were able to partner with Indiana Soccer, one of the main drivers of it, because not many people in the industry now are offering, another 1 million, 2 million of sexual abuse and molestation in the excess coverage. Finally, our participant accident coverage. So your player medical coverage is actually done through us as well. We're the broker or the advocate on it. And then there's an insurance company on the back end and a third-party administrator who is kind of processing those claims. If anybody's having any issues with that whatsoever, reach out to us, and we're the hammer. We're going to go to the insurance company and say, like, hey, you guys need to speed this up. So if there are any issues like that, please reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to help out or assist on that. And then finally, a really unique thing that I've seen across U.S. youth soccer that I haven't seen in other national and state governing bodies is that Indiana Soccer Association actually picks up your directors and officers insurance from a member benefit basis. So directors and officers is really, think of rules promulgation. So as a director and officer of the club, you're pushing out rules or things of that nature. If someone sues you directly as a director and officer of the club, this coverage actually picks it up. And so it's a gap that a lot of people have, but luckily Indiana Soccer actually pays for that for you and covers that for you.
Yeah, on that point, especially for those of you on the call, when you're a director or officer of a not-for-profit, you're actually looked upon as a fiduciary. And so the standard of care that's required of a board member of a not-for-profit is much higher than if you were a board member of General Motors, for example. And so it's important to me that our volunteers, those who are serving as directors and officers, have this coverage, because most of us don't know that our personal exposure is pretty high when we serve as a board member of a not-for-profit. And so this aspect right here that Chris just mentioned, we negotiated for really good coverage there to make sure that our volunteers can continue to volunteer, serve in those areas as a director or officer, and still have the confidence that they're not going to be. They could also always be sued. I can't stop somebody from suing you, but at least you've got defense costs and you have some loss costs should you lose that suit.
Exactly. And again, I do want to reiterate, this is really unique in terms of U.S. youth soccer and kind of what they do. A lot of other associations don't offer that coverage and have you go out and buy it individually yourselves. But this is important. I'd say, I think it's like 31% of claims go against the directors and officers. And of that, 58% of those are nonprofits. So even though you're a nonprofit, even though you're a volunteer, there still is the ability for someone to come after you as an individual, as well as kind of your organization. But underneath U.S. Youth Soccer, U.S. Youth Soccer, Indiana Soccer Association, those events and those sanctioned kind of activities, you're actually covered from a D&O basis. Again, kind of going through the coverages that you have, 1 million, 5 million. You also have sexual abuse and molestation. You have what they call NDI, or neurodegenerative injury, which is concussions. So, I was a rugby player, so you guys can imagine. I probably one too many concussions later, I realized that I needed to hang up my boots. Lucky to be talking to y'all here today. But from an NDI perspective, this is a really important coverage because it covers people coming against you for a concussion suit. There is, 40% of concussion suits are actually go to legal expenses. A lot of these actually never end up in settlements, and the only people who are getting paid, unfortunately, are the lawyers. But at the end of the day, this is an important coverage to cover the legal expenses, because all of this insurance stuff covers not just a settlement, but it covers legal expenses as well. And then hired and non-owned and excess coverage. So these are additional coverages that are provided to Indiana State Soccer Association as well. Oh, sorry. Participant accident. So this is the accident medical coverage. Again, Indiana Soccer provides accident medical coverage. So, for example, if one of your athletes is out on the field and they tear their ACL, if they have primary coverage, this kind of sits on top of that, and they can go through Indiana Soccer Association to file a claim and say, hey, my primary covered, let's say 80% of the costs. Can the other 20% be covered by Indiana Soccer's medical policy? Now, there's a whole lot of nuances that, again, I don't want to put you to sleep with deductibles and co-insurance and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, there is this additional coverage to help just in case something catastrophic happens. Also, if the person doesn't have primary insurance, they can actually go through the same excess medical policy. So that's a member benefit, and that's able to help you all out as well. Finally, we kind of went through directors and officers. I'm not going to kind of bore you with that anymore, but just know that you want to make sure that you as an individual, any of the directors that you have, board of directors, and any of the officers that you have are covered in some way. Underneath Indiana Soccer Association and those sanctioned events, you're covered. But outside of that, you probably want to make sure you have some sort of coverage, either through the association if they provide it, and or kind of through your own club. And then finally, I want to get into what else we do, because what we're here for, again, is to help you all out. I know a lot of the times it's insurance people are trying to give you a million things and trying to boost their premium and sell more. That's not us. We only want to give you what you need, but we want to explain all of the pieces, and then like we worked with Dave, explain to us what you all are looking for and how we can help you. From an additional member benefit perspective of Indiana Soccer Association, and the consortium and Dave really pushed on this to kind of provide additional ability for you all to buy coverage. We can provide additional coverage for the general liability, the accident, the sexual abuse and molestation, etc. Property coverage. So if you have, what they call business personal property. So I don't know, cones, light fixtures, that sort of thing, or anything that you throw in a shack, that can actually be covered through an insurance policy. Crime. So if there's any sort of, wire funds, transfer fraud, or anything like that, that can actually be covered underneath this policy. Additional directors and officers coverage. So again, you're covered underneath sanctioned activities of Indiana Soccer Association. But if you're playing in other associations or other leagues outside of that, this may be a coverage that you want. Event liability, if you're having a ton of events and you want to have that covered, and then cyber for your websites and that sort of thing. What's really exciting is that we always want to think innovatively about insurance, which I know that's an oxymoron, but it's something that we're kind of taking a look at because insurance has been done the same way for a long time. And it used to be a social good, but because of, things like greed, things like people kind of wanting to get theirs, it's gotten a bad rap. And what we want to try and bring it back is to that social good and try and think innovatively about how do we actually use insurance to help people, as opposed to just being something that nobody wants to buy and nobody wants to use. So kind of on our end, when we were looking at creating, again, with Indiana Soccer and the consortium, we are in the process of getting healthcare benefits capabilities across the organization in all 50 states. So we should be able to support, I think March 15th to April 1st is the time frame that we're looking for thus far. But you'll be able to come to us to provide healthcare benefits and to be able to assist you all for healthcare benefits. There's also an opportunity. It's Again, don't want to get too much into the weeds. It's called an ICRA platform. But for us to be able to help you with 1099s and be able to provide healthcare for 1099 or 1099 contractors. Oh, sorry, Dave.
No, I was going to say, this is an area that I've been working on for over a decade, probably closer to 15 years. Many of our coaches, a lot of times, we'll have one or two employees in a club, and there's no healthcare benefits available because, and if you go on the exchange, and I've experienced this, I've got a 30-year-old who's single, and the exchange is not cost effective. They beat you up pretty badly. So we're looking for an alternate for group health coverage. And so this 8-state consortium that Chris just mentioned, we've been pushing hard. We're very like-minded. We're very service-minded. We want to provide our members and let our members also provide additional benefits to their members. This whole area is something that we're hoping will climax here in the next 30 to 45 days and be able to offer these things to our clubs. And I think this is going to be a massive benefit, and that the health care is just a portion of it. And I know Chris is going to address the other two. But again, I would ask you kind of listen in on these because these are coming.
Yeah, and on the healthcare side, I don't want to get too into it because there's a bit of confidentiality around what we're doing, but we're looking at an acquisition to pull in that benefits practice. And what we've found is that the biggest piece is around service. I think one of the reasons why it's so hard to navigate the exchange is because you don't actually know what you want or what you need to get. And we have kind of experienced professionals on our end who are going to be able to walk you through that. So maybe you don't need the Cadillac coverage. Maybe you need the scaled back coverage, just the catastrophic piece. So understanding and knowing what you're looking for and what you need will actually help you from that healthcare perspective. Also, registration insurance. So this is something we're developing in-house through our in-house MGA, but it's basically registration insurance. So we're able to provide, on an opt-in basis, your parents to be able to buy this registration coverage. What'll happen is if an athlete gets hurt, let's say, and they're out of the season in the first 2 weeks of the season, that they'll be able to get refunded their money back from the insurance. And so what it's really looking to do is provide you an additional member benefit on your end, to be able to provide to your parents who are coming in saying, hey, if you get this insurance coverage, the bag isn't stuck with you and on the club basis. It's actually with the insurance company. So they'd be able to buy that, call it, and I don't know, we don't know the pricing yet, but $20-$30 for a parent to come in and pay for that insurance. And then they would be refunded that whole amount if they got hurt in the season.
This one right here, I get involved quite often when somebody does get hurt, or they claim they're hurt or whatever, and they want to get all their money back from the club. And yet here the trials have already happened. The budget's already been set for the club and for that team. And all of a sudden now you're going to take 1/15, we'll say, of that revenue, and you're going to return it. And yet you have no way to replace that player because tryouts have already happened. Everybody's found their way onto a team. I'm not explaining something that all of you haven't experienced. And so everyone's compromised, and it's just a tough situation. This right here will alleviate that problem. You give the parent an option to buy this registration insurance, and should that occur and they've got the insurance, the club's not going to suffer the financial loss of that player. The parents are going to suffer the financial loss associated with that player not being able to complete the season. So this is something that we've been pushing hard for, and I'll applaud Chris and his team for actually going out and being able to assemble something. And it's something I think will be quite affordable.
Absolutely. And then finally, team event cancellation insurance. And this was another thing that we were kind of talking with a lot of people about and trying to understand, because what's happening a lot, especially everybody I know has seen it with COVID. And basically what happened is people go to the event, and even with weather and other things, and they want to go to the event, they sign up 6 months early, and then the event gets canceled for weather, for other issues. Most recently, most of them were canceled for COVID. And what was happening was the event companies or the organizations were having a lot of difficulty being able to refund that full amount, because that was how those organizations were able to run throughout the year. Again, to Dave's point, it's probably things you have experienced in one way or another. So what we wanted to do is try and find a middle ground solution. So kind of similar to airplane cover, or what is it, the airplane coverage, where the travel coverage, where, hey, I can buy $10, $20 to make sure that my flight's taken care of if I get sick or something like that. That's the same thing on the team event cancellation side. So a team would be able to buy event cancellation insurance around weather, around any sort of other events that happen. Right now, we're trying to get it so that it covers COVID as well, but there's a lot of pushback from the insurance companies, as you can imagine. But covering a lot of that other ancillary things that could happen around weather or job loss or whatever, we're trying to get a team event cancellation insurance so that the team can buy it, and really the event wouldn't be out of the money, the team wouldn't be out of the money, the insurance company would pay that cost if it got canceled for some sort of reason. So these were kind of the three things that we're really working on and pushing now. The healthcare benefits, again, should be here. My expectation is within the next 45 days, and then we can start doing surveys and going through that process. Registration insurance, they're working through the filings now, but we do have capacity behind us to be able to push that forward. So they're developing that actual product. And then finally, the team event cancellation insurance, we're also developing that product in-house, and they're putting together all the filings and things that are needed there. So these are all kind of additional member benefits that you can buy or purchase through Indiana Soccer Association, and you'll get, because you're with Indiana Soccer Association, you're kind of a preferred customer. So we'll be able to help support you in any way that we can and make sure that you're getting exactly what you need.
And we have a few more minutes. So if anyone has any specific questions, maybe we just take this last few minutes for those questions. Just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask Chris whatever you have.
Hi, this is Troy Vega from Cutter Soccer Club. I'm sorry, I'm trying to follow both meetings, so I didn't catch all the detail, but how do we ensure, is there a solution for ensuring players that are guest players, rec players that we can't get to sign up as members?
So is this more for like an event, kind of an event that you're putting on, or is it more like just on a trial basis?
Trial basis and pickup soccer basis.
Okay, so on a trial basis, you're actually, there's rules within Indiana Soccer that I'm sure Dave can kind of go into around, from a trial basis, even if they haven't signed up yet, that they're still covered underneath the insurance policy, as long as that is quote unquote sanctioned by Indiana Soccer. So whatever those rules are for Indiana Soccer that the association has around what trial looks like, that's kind of covered underneath it. If you're looking to cover them, so let's say for pickup games though, which wouldn't be covered under ISA, you can actually buy an insurance policy underneath your club, like general liability, accident, etc., that covers that specific segment. So you can actually kind of buy that on your own or on your basis, and it's a separate policy that says, hey, this covers pickup games and that sort of thing for 50 athletes or 100 athletes.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I so appreciate your asking it, because I deal with this issue quite often, and it really gives me heartburn, because a lot of our clubs are doing something. It's the right thing to do for the kid, and I agree, but it's the wrong thing to do for the club's exposure if you don't have it covered. We also have one other thing, is if you're going to take this non-registered player to an event, they want to just kind of get their feet wet, we do have a way in which to do that. You can call the office to get them registered for an event. It covers a certain number of days, I think, in that event. So I think there's a way to cover all aspects. But there again, Troy, I appreciate your asking a question rather than just blindly doing something without making sure that you're covered. In the chat, they ask, well, will these sessions be, they're being recorded, by the way. And yes, the recording will be available to you all later. So probably, I don't know if I'll have the time today because I don't think I get done until 8 or 8:30 this evening, but we will make sure that the access to these sessions are available on the website. Well, we've got about a minute left. And so Chris, I just want to thank you again. You're getting up on a Saturday morning. Also want to let the membership of Indiana Soccer know that I've really, really enjoyed the attitude, the aggressiveness of players' health, and in particular, Chris, and making sure that we don't have any cracks in the armor when it comes to insurance. But more importantly, I love the fact that it's a risk management company. They're trying to make sure that we can continue to do what we do, mitigate our risks, and make sure that none of us fall because of a lawsuit down the road for some reason. So if we get our act together on the front end, risk management, make sure that we've got coverage in case something does happen. That makes my life a lot easier. And I feel a lot better that we're doing the job that we need to do for our member clubs. Chris, thank you again for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks.